January 1930. Once upon a time. Are you ready for the last chapter? And I'm going to examine everything, so it's going to take quite a while. Once upon a time. Once upon a time. I'm actually not too sure what this symbolizes. I mean, it's Wendy and Jennifer, of course. But, like, and they agree to like, go through what they're going through together. Then there's a dog. And Jennifer falls over. And there's just one of them. So, I mean, I guess I just explained it. This letter looks familiar. Yes, it's one of the secret letters that Wendy and I traded. 25 March from W to J, my dear Jennifer. There is nothing to fear. I am always by your side. I will never betray you. We made an oath, remember? 25 July from W to J. My dear Jennifer, I'm so relieved that you are well again. Is that why I couldn't find you yesterday morning? It's no use trying to fool me. I can see right through your pranks. Anyway, thanks in advance. Tee hee hee. 24 August from W to J. Jennifer, thank you for introducing me to Brown, but such a filthy dog is not a good match for you and me. Just give it to Nicholas or something, and let's be content with just the two of us. 10 September from W to J. My stubborn Jennifer, is Brown that important to you? It's just a dog, a filthy animal. Please stop sharing your wonderful smile with that thing. Please smile only at me. 1 October from W to J. Jennifer the Heartless. That escalated quickly. Why didn't you come? I waited and waited for you. Why can't I see you every morning? I think only of you. Are you avoiding me? Wendy. You were always so lonely. Poor lonely Wendy. I wonder if my letters ever reached her. Well, let's go find out. When I came here, this suitcase was the only luggage I had. I lost everything in the accident. My mother, my father, all my possessions, and even my memories. Tied to this pillar, unable to move, I was all alone. It took a while, but I finally freed myself. I was always the slowpoke. But that won't happen again. I'll never let myself be tied up again. Metaphorically and literally, I guess. I spent so much time in this room. Who knows how many times I woke up here? The nights were lonely and cold, but you'd always greet me in the morning. Only you greeted me warmly. Thank you so. I guess it could be possible that she's talking about Wendy, but I mean, it is probably Brown. It's the detested rubbish bin. No one ever suspected that something precious was hidden inside it. Nor did they know that it was the only place where I could keep my things safe. It feels as if something very dear to me was here. Someone or something that always looked after me, helped me. Is she talking about Brown, or is she talking about the bucket night? I mean, I guess the bucket night was there. So it must have been the bucket night. Everyone would put their dirty laundry there, and it was my job to wash it. How ironic, the one they called filthy washing their filthy clothes. It all seems so silly now. We're watching you. That's what the picture meant. But it was still scary. Bucket night. Oh, it's in here now. A makeshift night that Nicholas and Xavier used for sword practice. Though they may have forgotten about it, I've always remembered. For I yearned for a loyal knight to come to my rescue. There used to be a picture here of everyone at the orphanage. It was a picture filled with hope taken the day I was brought here. I was afraid someone would try to steal this precious memory from me, so I took the picture down and kept it safe. The night was quiet, dark, and scary. What does that say? The myth of the holy cow? Yet it was a mysterious time that aroused excitement. Some nights we'd stay awake in secret, hiding from the teacher and draw pictures by lamplight. It made us feel very much like adults, something not possible during the day. So I suppose Jennifer might have had other acquaintances besides the people in the aristocrat club. A mermaid doll. What a proud and pure creature. Diana yearned to become a beautiful lady like a mermaid. But as she grew older, she realized that she was straying further and further from her ideal self. Poor Diana. She was trapped by her own ideals. It's so jarring, actually, seeing Jennifer have a voice. But she gains it when she's finally able to stand up for herself and, like, work through. There are doodles everywhere. Skelth. Skelth. No matter how many we cleaned up, more would show up the next day. Amanda was fond of using the sewing machine. When she got absorbed in something, she'd think of nothing else. Especially sewing, which was always on her mind. If we ran out of cloth or thread, she'd just sew rags with an empty needle over and over again. And then she'd smile at the tattered rag with satisfaction. The future that people dreamt of never came, and was soon forgotten. From the blue skies of hope, it sank into the depths of oblivion. The new life born from it was an existence devoid of hope. It slowly wriggles its large body and stares at the sky with a remorseful look. That's its only purpose. We learned very, very little about what Jennifer... Oh no, this is where the goat would be. I said before that it would, well, I guess I wasn't technically wrong. Because I said that the equivalent of the first class luggage, where the grandfather clock is, would be the reception room in the mansion. But it's not like one-to-one because there was a library in the first class guest quarters too. So I don't know. It's a stuffed goat, the white goat Mary, the black goat Sally. When Meg found her letter to Diana torn apart, she was deeply wounded and cried in Diana's arms. Even though she was the one who ripped it up, and when Meg's notebook was found all scattered about, Diana made fun of her, saying Mary and Sally must have ate it. Poor Meg. She was bound by the shackles of foolish devotion. I wonder if Jennifer, as an adult, is like a poet. I've always imagined her like working in an office. Like at a newspaper or something. That would make sense. Thomas was always playing with his trains. They were his only friends. There was no final stops on his railroad, for that would be devastating to him. It's rumored that this obsession had something to do with his birth, but Thomas never spoke about it with anyone. Oh, that was really loud.
Jennifer!
Jennifer?
No, I was just here. I meant to go the other way around.
Jennifer?
Jennifer!
Clara was a quiet person. To me, she looked like just another student at the orphanage. Except when she spoke to Mr. Hoffman or Martha, then she looked scary. And that makes me think that Martha might have known something about Hoffman's abuse towards Clara, but like, just like she like showed some like minor concern when it came to the whole Wendy dressed up as Joshua and training Gregory like a dog and sending letters into the police. I wonder if I'll be like Clara when I'm older. Will I enjoy those days? Okay, that line's interesting to me because she says, I wonder if I'll be like Clara when I'm older. But she's 19. Unless she was a child all along, and she actually says something in this chapter, like how she thought she was more mature than the other kids. She thought she was already an adult, which makes me think that, like, I don't know, I guess one theory would be that she was a child all along, and this happens, like, right after the orphanage massacre. And so she's still a child, and she's working through her memories and her trauma from, like right after the massacre, but that doesn't really make much sense. I think it makes a lot more sense for her to be an adult and like be like remembering this and coming to terms with everything. But I don't know. This letter looks familiar. So this is where Wendy would have had her letters, because she was always sick in the sick room. Yes, it's one of the secret letters that Wendy and I traded. 16 November. Dear Wendy, my visitor in the window. Thank you so much for writing to me. The man calls me Joshua, but my name is Jennifer. I've been in this room ever since he saved me. He's a nice person, but he won't let me leave. 10 December. From J to W. Thank you, Wendy. I want to fly away from this room and run with you in the fields, but the man is so lonely, so sad, I can't just leave him alone. 14 January. From J to W. Thank you, Wendy, my kind and fair princess. Is there something that I can do for you? 24 January. From J to W. I, Jennifer, pledge to the fair Princess Wendy, everlasting true love, I am yours. 20 March. From J to W. Wendy, I'm here now, but I'm kind of afraid. Everything is new to me. I'm worried if I'll get along with everyone. 22 July. From J to W. Dear Wendy, I have great news. I found something wonderful. I look forward to every morning now, and I hope you will too. 13 August. From J to W. How are you, Wendy? You haven't said anything to me since I showed you the surprise. Do you like my cute little puppy Brown? Let's take care of him together. 20 August. From J to W. My dear Wendy, this little guy is just so adorable. When I call his name, he comes bounding to me. I know you'll like him too. 24 September. From J to W. How are you doing, Wendy? Are you all right? We'll always be friends, and Brown can be our friend too. I know you don't understand, but I can't just abandon him. 6 October. From J to W. You've got it all wrong, Wendy. This isn't how it's supposed to be. I never expected you to react this way. All I wanted was for us to live happily ever after together. 31st January. From W to J. My dear Prince, yes, you are my prince. A prince and a princess must be together after all. Jennifer, you are my eternal companion. Just promise to stay by my side and save your smiles for me. That's all I ask. We don't need a filthy dog. We can't let anyone come between us. 28 November. From W to J. You still have that filthy dog? I'll never forgive you. Have you forgotten your oath? The rule of Rose? Goodbye, Jennifer. You will regret choosing that dog over me. Peter the rabbit. He was the pet that Wendy suddenly decided to take care of. It was about the same time I started looking after Brown. I wonder if Wendy really loved Peter. Was she sad when she had to give him up? think so. She seemed pretty upset. The red bird in the cage, the doll Eleanor treasured. That line confuses me. I wonder if it's just an error in translation, because I don't think it was just a doll. Because they had pets that they took care of at the orphanage. It would make sense for Eleanor to... Maybe she's just saying doll as a term of endearment, or like she carries the bird around as if a child would a doll, maybe? If only we could fly like birds and go wherever we wished, she whispered softly. Yet, no matter how much Eleanor wished, she'll never be able to just fly away from this orphanage. Poor Eleanor. She was burdened by her own frozen heart. I guess my theory is that Eleanor probably shut herself off from all her emotions after her parents died or abandoned her. And that accounts for a lot of her behavior. And like she was also unable to perform to have like meaningful relationships with anyone because of this, and that's what she means by she was burdened by her own frozen heart, because it prevented her from like rising above her past. Okay, we have completed the upstairs section. The spooky things, the scary creatures that everyone talked about. They'll come and clean if you don't, sweeping bad children away like dust. Well, they actually came and attacked me. I knew what they really were, but that wasn't the problem. The real problem was my weak heart. My weakness was what drew them here. So, I heard... She says weak heart. And, like, I guess you could take that literally. Because, like, well, look. Like, maybe she had a medical condition. That would account for, like, why she's always, like, completely out of breath when she runs. I'm not sure if a medical condition would attract the spooky things. There's a working film projector here. Any films you have can be played on it. So you can watch the FMVs again if you collected the films. One time, Diana was absorbed in deep thought here. She was the prettiest, the most mature of the aristocrats. She wanted so much to be an adult, and yet she was also afraid of growing up too fast. Doesn't say anything about the route. What's... Down here is something called the October ticket. And if you put it in your inventory... I mean, just get the October ticket. Go to the end of the game. Save your... Oh. It's right there. October ticket. And if you have this, you unlock the octopus costume. A ticket of some kind. What is that strange drawing on it? You unlock the costume, another costume in the 4-leaf clover room when you load your save file. The sign says dining room. But it says cafeteria when you go in here. It all started here when I dug up the mound. I sensed that something precious to me was buried here, and I couldn't stop myself. The old me, the one who didn't understand herself, I lost my friend because of her. If I could go back, I'd try to save him. But what has happened can never be undone. I'll never break a promise again. This game is so fun. I mean, it is, but not for that reason. The sloppy drawing must be Thomas's. See what happens when you give him chalk, the walls, the floors. To him, it's one big canvas. It's like a cyclops. The spooky things love to clean. That's why they always carried mops and brooms. They'll kidnap you if you don't clean, at least that's what everyone says. On Halloween, we all dressed up in costumes. Everyone else wore bags over their heads and stared at me through tiny holes. Their blank faces and muffled voices. It scared me like you wouldn't believe. Is it really you under there? I asked, fearing it was something else. But no one would answer me. Amanda was always more sensitive about her looks than anyone else. One day, she was given a severe scolding by Miss Martha. That's because Miss Martha's lipstick had gone missing. The lipstick was never found, but I know Amanda took it. I've seen her applying it late at night. Mr. Hoffman loved to broadcast over the PA system. While we were cleaning, while we were eating, and even after we went to bed. He always announced our names in the order of his favorites. We'd all try our best to win his approval and be the first one to be called. But he never called my name, not once. I thought it was all rather silly anyway. That day, Mr. Hoffman disappeared like he was running away from something. He had tried too hard to be someone he wasn't. The expectations were too much for him and he wanted to escape those restrictions. However, children and adults live in the same world and we must both play by society's rules. The book is open. To March 1930. Recently, the children have been engaging in odd activities and spreading disturbing rumors. Rumors about creatures that come after children who don't clean up and stray dogs that kidnap small tots. It's all very bizarre. 16 August 1930. Today, I was busy catching up on my work when Clara came by to offer me a hand. I guess my teaching paid off. I was grateful for her kindness. In the wee hours of the morning, she was still working, so I gently took her to bed. I can hardly believe it. My little Clara, bless her heart, is already 16 years old. She tells me she wants to stay at the orphanage and help with the daily chores. Maybe I should seriously consider the offer. Tomorrow I'll discuss it with Martha. At the time, it seemed so frightening. Were those scary things that attacked me just figments of my imagination? 24 August 1930. This is simply inexcusable. My precious koi is gone. The children must be responsible. I won't stand for this. Where is it? Diana? What's she been up to? My opinion of her will suffer because of this. The diary continues, but the last page is particularly interesting. It's Mr. Hoffman's last entry before he disappeared. 11 November 1930. I'm leaving the orphanage. Claire's here to look after things and the children are quickly growing up. I've done right and fulfilled my duty. Bloody hell, all the trouble started when that wretched child arrived. I've done nothing to deserve this. That's the end of the diary. We never saw Mr. Hoffman again. I hope he was murdered. I know you're in a very stinky place. Because that rag Diana put to my face smelled just awful. But no matter how clever or fast you are, there's no escaping. You're like a mermaid in captivity, adapting to a new reality, leaving your home behind. Did you find happiness? Is she talking about Clara? Just heard a huge crash behind me. It was a cold winter night. I had been scolded as usual and called into the headmaster's room. I didn't like being scolded, but I didn't mind so much. When it was in front of the fireplace, which was warm and cozy. All of us loved red roses. Even the name of the orphanage was befitting of an aristocrat. It wasn't until I swore the oath of the rose that I learned roses have thorns. That's like the least deep thing in this entire game. The record player is brand new. Playing a record would fill the room with sweet music. So we could play our records if we wanted. This is Mr. Hoffman's prized collection of fine dishes. We would sometimes sneak them out and play house with them in the attic. But that's our little secret. Ah! This is a picture of Mr. Hoffman when he was a young man. Wow, his teeth are very sharp. He was so proud when he showed it to us, he never caught the one who doodled on it, though. But I know who did it. I saw Thomas trying to move the ladder on the day it happened. Good for him. Good for him. That day, when Thomas couldn't get down from the tree, the ladder, which had been collecting dust, sure came in handy. Back then, Mr. Hoffman was a kind and admirable teacher. There used to be beautiful roses here, picked by Wendy from the rose garden. But as with all things, they wilted away with the passage of time. Miss Martha used to scold Nicholas for forgetting to water the plants. And then she'd turn her wrath on me, snapping, "What are you laughing at, young lady?" Once, Susan started a rumor about the voices coming from this room at night. It turned out that it was only the door creaking in the wind. But one night, sounds came from the room even when the windows shut. Susan jumped out of her bed and screamed. It was really just a prank by Nicholas and Xavier. From then on, the room was believed to be haunted and was considered off limits. I think that's the only thing that she says about Susan. Hitlerism is a form of government controlled by one man's will. Democracy is a form of government controlled. Hitlerism is a form of government controlled by one man's will. I learned many things at the orphanage. The alphabet words, how to clean and do laundry. But the most important thing I learned was the lesson I received in exchange for my dear friend's life. I finally came to understand myself, my beliefs, and the will to stand up for them. I don't want to lose those ever again. On cold winter days, we all used to gather here and talk. I, of course, couldn't join in, so I sat off to the side. Even so, it felt so warm. The map of this country. That day we flew from England, those memories were buried deep inside of me. The airship and the accident. Thereafter, the story of my life became a tale of misfortune. Even when the others played airship, I couldn't bear to join them. So I was left out. And there are some other names that you can see of the orphans. A brat, a know-it-all, an introvert, a crybaby, and an elitist. I know misfortune because I tolerated them all. I thought I was the only grown-up. But we were all just kids, myself included. But what does it really mean to be grown-up? Will I ever become one? She says... I didn't finish my thought before. She says, what's interesting is she said, will I be like Claire when I'm older? But Claire was 16 and she would be 19, unless the whole thing about her not actually being an adult. But I do think it's still weird for her to like be like, will I be like Claire when I'm older when like Claire was younger than her? Because Claire was 16 and she was 19 if we're to take the age in the manual that came with her, with the book, literally. But I mean, 19's still not grown up, really. I mean, legally it is, but it's baby adult. Jennifer, are you happy now? Considering how bad it was for you back then, that tragedy you wanted to forget? Now that you remember everything, how do you feel? Is the answer inside you? Think carefully, Jennifer. I came to this room every day to do laundry. The water was so cold and the soap would sting my eyes. But I didn't hate it, because clean laundry is so refreshing. Ah. thought she says something about Olivia here. Oh, here. If Miss Martha had disappeared, there would have been no one to cook. If Clara had disappeared, there would have been no one to tend to our wounds. If Mr. Hoffman had disappeared, there would have been no one to teach us. You can't live life eating snacks all day with no exercise or studying. If you look at it that way, even the Aristocrat Club needed adults around. Our world was so small. She does say something about Olivia here, doesn't she? That's weird. There are a couple of letters here. It's a letter from the police. 20 October 1930, re Mr. Gregory Wilson. Dear ma'am, please forgive the delay in our response. In your letter, you reported suspicious activity on the part of Mr. Gregory Wilson. After investigating the matter, we have come to the following conclusion. There is little to indicate that the said individual is connected with the recent kidnappings. Mr. Wilson is father to a son who closely matches the description in your letter. Therefore, we have determined that there is insufficient evidence to warrant further investigation. Maybe you should check that his son is dead. We appreciate your cooperation and understanding in this matter, Anthony Doolittle. Get it? Because he does little. Cardington Police. It's a letter from Martha. 24 November, Officer Doolittle. My name is Martha Carroll, and I work at the Rose Garden Orphanage. In the past month, I have sent 6 letters to your attention, but have yet to receive a response. Have my letters reached you? I ask that you please investigate this matter at once for the safety of our children. Yesterday, I saw them together again, Mr. Wilson and Wendy, a child at our orphanage. I am very concerned for her safety. The two of them have been acting quite strangely. Oh, it's terribly odd. By strangely, I mean Mr. Wilson walking on all fours and nodding, and Wendy appears to be scolding him. I don't know how to explain it, except that it resembled dog training gone wrong. Ooh, it gives me the shivers just thinking about it. Please, come investigate this matter as... The letter ends there. Perhaps if the matter had been addressed publicly, things wouldn't have turned out as they did. Adults are so selfish. I think that's everything. Well, I can't find the object that... We never used umbrellas. On snowy days, we'd go out for snowball fights. On rainy days, we'd go out and play in the rain and get soaking wet. Every time, Xavier would trip and get himself all muddy and we'd laugh. It was so much fun. One day, Mr. Hoffman suddenly disappeared. Clara and Miss Martha soon followed, leaving me and the other orphans alone. It's a small locker. But it was just for me. My name was even on it. They made me feel welcome. I was so happy I'd move my shoes in and out over and over again. So I can't find the object that triggers the... what she says, but she does... Could have sworn she says something about how Olivia would always cry for attention, but when the adults left, there was no one to listen to her anymore, and so she didn't cry. What the hell? Did the door just move? So cute. Ah! It's all grown over. We can read... Here. Let's read The Little Princess now, since it's finished. The Little Princess. Once upon a time, there was a precious little girl. Her friend, the Princess of the Red Rose, was always at her side. Then one day, her mummy and daddy died suddenly. The princess, too, disappeared, leaving the girl all alone. And the poor little girl was sent away to a strange house. At her new home, the aristocrat club lived by the rule of Rose, but the girl found herself very much alone. Until she discovered a wonderful new friend, the girl and her companion obeyed the rule of Rose. For in the aristocrat club, the rule of Rose was absolute, as was the word of the Princess of the Red Rose. The girl obeyed the rule of Rose, but the Countess refused to like her. The girl obeyed the rule of Rose, but the Baroness punished her still. The girl obeyed the rule of Rose, but the Duchess taunted her anew. And yet the girl and her friend were still faithful to the rule of Rose. The Princess of the Red Rose found this all very dull, and so she issued a rule of Rose for the final time. The girl was to sacrifice her very special friend, and when she did, she became a princess. A lonely little princess burdened by the rule of Rose, the woeful princess put her memories under lock and key forever and ever. That bus that brought me here. Should I try to take it the other way? No, that's not right. There are still things I have to do here. Wait for me, Brown. Hello, little girl. Do you have a story you can share with me? A happy one, that is. Please tell me if you do. My son is waiting. The girl and her friend lived happily together and forever after. Don't you agree, little girl? People will always lie, betray each other, and forget about the past. They only really want to get others to do as they wish. There's no such thing as everlasting love. It wasn't right of me to preach to you like that. Forgive me. If you'll let me, I'll write a story about you. It'll be about a pretty little princess. If I may, please let me write a story about you. The sign has been broken ever since I came here. I guess it doesn't matter, no one comes to visit anyway. Please wait for me. I'll be there. That is one compressed texture on the outside of the shed. My dear friend, I never want to lose you again. I'll protect you forever and ever until I die. Everlasting true love, I am yours. I'll protect you. Forever and ever until I die. Alright, well, there you have it. She locks her memories in the shed with Brown and, basically ends up protecting Brown, through her memories. My brain is fried. I am so tired of Rule of Rose. I love this game so much, but I just did the spoiler-free walkthrough, and then I did the long play, and I've been thinking about Rule of Rose nonstop for like the past week, and I am done, and I'm happy to be done. Even though I love this game so much, I'm just happy for it to be done for now, because it's a lot to think about, and it's very heavy, and well, I hope you enjoyed it. I definitely didn't get all my thoughts out, but honestly, I think some things I kind of want to hear other people's thoughts on it, because I mean, gosh, my brain is just completely fried from all that Rule of Rose. This is one of my favorite horror games, despite the horrible combat and everything. The graphics, really. I'm still amazed by how good the graphics are, and I'm not just talking about the FMVs. The FMVs, of course, look amazing, but what's also amazing is, like, just the regular graphics. The textures are pretty compressed, but the character models are, like, pretty high polygon. It's, like, very, very impressive. The music is, of course, gorgeous. If you listen to the lyrics of this, it relates a lot to the stories, and like, well, it's pretty morbid. But if you can't understand the lyrics or are having trouble understanding them, you can just look them up. That's all I have to say. Honestly, I said so much. I love suicide, the theme from Rule of Rose. Yes, I am aware. Yeah, I said pretty much all I needed to say in my long play. Well, not everything, but all I wanted to say for the moment. So I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.
Just as innocent as roses in May, it is pure wine.
The end is shaped like a 4-leaf clover. Costume room.